Over the years, we've enjoyed all kinds of animated adaptations, and the celebrity Toon has been especially popular. Oftentimes, when a celebrity gets big or popular enough, sooner or later, somebody would probably attempt to make a TV show about them. The result, the celebrity Toon. If these celebrities are musicians and the show is animated, the result is what has become known as a band toon. Often these band toons would feature made-up bands and musicians traveling around the world taking part in exotic adventures in between belting out their most popular songs, written especially for the show, while occasionally a song from such a fictional band will be a breakout hit and appear in the charts. In today's video, however, we are looking at band toons which featured real-life musicians, as we go back to the 20th century to learn more about the history of animated musicians and who was the first to make their TV appearance in cartoon form. Musicians being depicted in animated form has a long history, going back to the first half of the 20th century. During the 1930s and 1940s, it was popular for cartoon shorts to contain caricatures of celebrities, usually Hollywood stars, but many of these caricatures were of famous musicians from those times, the earliest of which included Ted Lewis and the Boswell sisters, as well as famous conductors such as Leopold Stokowski. Frank Sinatra was a popular target for parody for the Warner Brothers animators during his early career in the 1940s, with most of the jokes focusing on his gaunt physique and the frenzied reaction of his young female audience. The Beatles burst onto the scene in 1960, and by 1964 had made their way across the pond to America, where the inevitable happened. They were given their own TV show. However, this was no ordinary TV show. Produced by King Features and debuting on the ABC network on September 25, 1965, The Beatles was a Saturday morning animated television series featuring representations of the Fab Four involved in all kinds of crazy and wacky adventures. The first episode featured the band fleeing to Transylvania to get a break from their fans and attempting to rehearse in a haunted house filled with monstrous occupants. The Beatles, also referred to as the Beatles cartoon, was a historical milestone, as it was not only the first cartoon to be centered around musicians, but was also the first weekly television series to feature animated versions of real, living people. While the band members themselves were not involved with the series' production, each episode is named after a Beatles song, so the story is based on its lyrics and the song itself is featured at some point in the episode. The series consisted of short animated stories that essentially were intended to set up the visual illustration of Beatles songs that were played in their entirety in the form of sing-along sequences, backed up by psychedelic imagery complementing the full lyrics of particular songs, amounting to early music videos of sorts. The cartoon depicted the band in their early mop-top and suit look, as depicted in the 1964 live-action film A Hard Day's Night, and also borrowed Richard Lester's fast-cutting directional style of A Hard Day's Night, as well as its 1965 follow-up, Help. The band are often joined in their adventures by their manager, Brian Epstein, often referred to as the fifth Beatle. The initial response to the cartoon and its subsequent legacy has been mixed. Much like everything to do with the Beatles at that time, the series was an instant hit and generated ratings which were then unheard of in daytime television. The Beatles themselves initially disliked the cartoon, and their negative views of the cartoon series discouraged them from participating significantly in the later animated feature film Yellow Submarine, whose producer Al Brodax and director George Dunning had also been involved in the production of the animated series. However, the band's views softened in later years, with both John Lennon and George Harrison commenting favorably on the cartoon. The Beatles ran for 39 episodes, and while the cartoon enjoyed later reruns on MTV and the Disney Channel, it's interesting to note that the show only debuted on British television as late as 1980. In 1971, Rankin Bass Studios collaborated with Motown Productions to produce a new Saturday morning cartoon called The Jackson 5, centered around a fictionalized portrayal of the careers of Motown recording group The Jackson 5, who had been enjoying a steady rise to fame since the mid-1960s. Like the Beatles cartoons, the Jackson 5 members had little to do with the show, apart from providing publicity photos which were transformed into cartoon caricatures by noted Mad magazine artist Jack Davis, who created the character designs for the show. The band members did not voice their own characters, although Diana Ross voiced herself in a cameo appearance in the pilot episode, in which she serves as the band's mentor and introduces them to a record studio. The premise of the show is that the Jackson 5 would have adventures similar to Josie and the Pussycats, where a music group finds themselves in a different adventure each week. Most of the episodes starred all 5 Jackson brothers in silly situations, but other episodes centered on the young Michael Jackson as the main character, having a dream based on fairy tales and other well-known stories. The Jackson 5 cartoon was popular enough for Rankin Bass to commission a sister series the following year, centered around the Osmonds, an American family music group who reached the height of their fame in the early to mid-1970s. Like the Beatles and the Jackson 5, the Osmonds would feature the band finding themselves involved in wacky capers, but unlike in the previous 2 band tunes, the Osmond brothers provided their own speaking voices in their series, which also featured their songs prominently. It's interesting to note that the entire series was animated in Japan by a studio called Topcraft, the precursor to what would eventually become Studio Ghibli. Eventually, the Osmonds aired back-to-back with the Jackson 5 cartoon, but unfortunately the cartoon went the same way as the Osmonds' music career and was cancelled after 1 season. The Osmonds debuted on the 9th of September 1972. And on the very same day, so did a new Scooby-Doo spin-off series, the New Scooby-Doo Movies. Aside from doubling the length of each episode, the New Scooby-Doo Movies differed from its predecessor in the addition of a rotating special guest star. Each episode featured either real-world celebrities or well-known animated characters joining Mystery Inc. in solving mysteries. A handful of famous musicians at the time made appearances and voiced themselves on the show, including Jerry Reed, Mama Cass Elliot, as well as Sonny and Cher. Cher would reappear in animated form in the early 90s when she made cameo appearances in 2 episodes of the Tiny Toon Adventures, Hollywood Plucky and It's a Wonderful Tiny Toons Christmas Special, alongside Madonna in her second cameo appearance in the series. In 1973, a new Saturday morning cartoon called Mission Magic, a spin-off of the Brady Kids, was produced by Filmation Studios and starred Australian rock star Rick Springfield, who voiced his own character and who would direct the other cast of characters towards various magical adventures. Mission Magic only lasted for 1 season, but was a success back in Australia, where Rick Springfield was much better known. On the 8th of September 1990, 2 band tunes debuted on the same day, Kid and Play and New Kids on the Block, both of which were based on their musical namesakes. Kid and Play were a New York-based hip-hop duo popular in the late 80s and early 90s, and on the show were portrayed as teenagers, along with their friend Jazzy and their DJ, Wiz. But their recording careers remained the same as in real life, as did their character traits. Although they didn't voice their cartoon characters, the Kid and Play members appeared in live-action wraparounds of the cartoons. Produced by Marvel Productions and Saban Entertainment, the cartoon series enjoyed a tie-in comic book series published by Marvel Comics and which ran for 9 issues in 1992. New Kids on the Block followed the adventures of the American boy band of the same name. The music group had even less to do with the series than previous band tunes, appearing only in live-action clips featured in the intro and outro to the cartoon, the footage being taken from the band's various live performances. The series focused on the group's misadventures along with their manager, who was based on their real-life manager, Maurice Starr, and each episode depicted the group traveling to a concert location when something takes them off track. Much like the Kid and Play cartoon, each episode ended with a pro-social moral lesson. 1 year later, in the fall of 1991, Deke Entertainment debuted Hammerman, starring rapper MC Hammer, who had recently topped the charts with his signature song, You Can't Touch This. Hammerman tells the story of youth center worker Stanley Burrell, MC Hammer's name in real life, who owns a pair of magical dancing shoes, which are alive and can speak, and which when worn caused Stanley to transform into the superhero Hammerman. He frequently gets advice from his Gramps, who was a former owner of the shoes and was known as Soul Man. MC Hammer himself didn't voice the cartoon character, but did host the show as he introduced each episode in a live-action segment and also sang the show's theme song, detailing the origins of his alter ego. Hammerman faced various social issues, and at the end of each episode, MC Hammer would speak to the audience and provide methods to address these issues themselves. Hammerman was a strange cartoon, and for a show produced by Deke Entertainment, it was of surprisingly poor quality. Hammerman received bad reviews and low ratings at the time, but the cartoon's legacy has fared even worse. Hammerman has been upheld as an example of one of the most ridiculous things to be turned into a Saturday morning cartoon, and frequently tops many worst of lists. But anyway, that's a wrap for today's video, and I hope you enjoyed revisiting all these band tunes from the 20th century. Musicians would continue to be popular targets for parody and caricature in the 21st century, but that's a video for another time. The musicians featured in today's band tunes would be remembered more for their music and their cartoons largely forgotten about, so let us know down in the comments which of these shows you remember. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe for more cartoon history. As always, thank you for watching and stay tuned.